friends, this is Yagyadev and I am presenting the current affair for the month of July, in which we will look into various aspects of initiative and policies that are taken by Government of India in order to cater the various economic policies in post-pandemic situation. So during the pandemic situation of COVID-19, we saw that various debt creates were happened during the pandemic situation. So various loans were taken which were not reimbursed, and that led to the non-performing asset creation, and bad loans were there. So Government of India, in order to cater those bad loans, created National Asset Reconstruction Company Limited, NARCL, and it was headquartered at Mumbai to cover up the bad loans which were incurring over the government's head and over the various corporate institutions. So Indian banking system was having a large percentage of stressed asset of 7.5% of advances, and in the Indian Bank Association proposed that the asset reconstruction company and asset management company should work on the mitigation of all these debts which need to be mitigated. Now, eventual value of realization was alternate investment fund that set to 89,000 crore by NARCL for all public sector bank with 22 bad loans. In future, it is expected to take most of the scenario in which the government will provide the loan taking back companies that are called as the NARCL, and which have no direct capital infusion in NARCL. So no direct capital will be infused, and NARCL will provide the good capital initiative. So in order to mitigate these bad loans, government has prescribed the classification of assets. So what are such classification? That is standard assets and non-performing assets. So those assets that has gone above 90 days period are called as non-performing assets, and which lead to creation of bad debt. So agricultural loans as well as the 2 crop season which were pending in the short term period, that during the pandemic scenario many agriculturalists were not able to pay their debt back, and that leads to creation of NPA and 1 crop per season. Also there is categorization of NPA as substandard NPA, doubtful assets and loss assets. So remember these 3 categorization for your prelims as well as mains point of view. So that is substandard assets, doubtful assets and loss assets. Substandard assets are those assets having period less than or equal to 12 months. Then doubtful assets, the assets exceeding the 12-month period, and the loss assets has been identified by the bank and internal or external auditors, by the cooperative and departmental by the Reserve Bank of India. Now in 1987 evolution of ARC was done, that is Board of Industrial Finance Reconstruction, BIFR, was created in 1987. Then in 1990 RBI realized first NPA guidelines. So non-performing assets guidelines were provided in 1990, and in 1990 we have the huge crisis over India's economy that was leading to the declination of India's money value in the global market. After that, India adopted the globalization, privatization and liberalization. So in 1991 we have Narsimhan Committee, friends, and which recommended the Central Asset Reconstruction Fund. So Central Asset Reconstruction Fund was set up in the year 1991. Then in 1998 again Narsimhan Committee 2 recommended ARC to set up in India. Now in the year 2002 SARFAISI Act was created. Now what is this SARFAISI Act? Securitization and reconstruction of financial assets and Enforcement of Security Interest Act, and that again proposed that the banks should be able to take back their finances which they have provided in terms of loans, debts, and which are creating non-performing assets, taking back by selling and mortgaging the properties that a person has kept with the bank as a collateral. So for that the bank can recover its capital back without going any court or tribunal. Then in 2003, RBI issues Securitization and Companies Reconstruction Reserve Bank Guidelines for Direction of ARC and Regulation of Non-Banking Financial Companies under RBI Act of 1934. Then net owned fund of 2 crore and maintaining a capital adequacy ratio of 50% was no deposit taken by ARC using bond, debentures and security receipts. Further, in 2017 and 18, the minimum net owned fund of getting ARC was increased from 100 crore to 2 crore, and 100% FDI was allowed in asset reconstruction companies. So, next part is Sudarshan Sen Committee that was created in 2021 by Reserve Bank of India. Again, very important for your prelims point of view, which shows that existing legal and regulatory framework for the ARCs with recommendation to improve efficiency of ARCs and to review the ARCs in stressed assets with the resolution under Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. We saw Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code in 2016 for resolving the insolvency by creating insolvency professionals. We studied yesterday that Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code provided to take back the insolved and bankrupt problems by creating insolvency professionals, and those professionals will take back the loans by making insolvencies possible. Then review ARC business model and suggest means of improving liquidity and trading of stressed assets. Further, urban local bodies development plan performs that platforms leverage the technology in the services of foundation of quality of life for every citizen, and it ensures the institutionalization of citizen-centric ecosystem-driven approach to urban governance by 2022 and across all the cities by 2024. What is the objective of National Urban Development Mission? So, it catalyzes the urban and national open digital ecosystem as UNOD, that is Urban National Open Digital Ecosystem. And that provides solutions for innovations and other performance to create open standard and enforce the adoption of open standards by all national digital urban stakeholders. Further, it provides for the establishment of registries at appropriate level to create single source of truth in respect of urban assets, services delivery and urban data and actors. Remember this point for your prelims. Then to promote the development of nationally scalable applications such as focus on the sustainable development goals for urban, adopt best principles of cooperative federalism while working with the states, UTs, ULBs and realization of the vision. Further, provides the enhancing of efficiency at all levels, challenges in urban digital transformation and lack of expertise. That is very important, because if persons are lacking in expertise in dealing with the corporate market and field market, then it leads to problem at various levels, and which needs technological resource, expertise and skilled manpower in digital infrastructure and technology. Then issue of data security is there with successful integration of digital technology at requires various levels, which are also form of infrastructure gap in urban digital transformation journey. Now, inadequate investment, there are insufficient funds to implement policy, bridge the infrastructure gap in urban areas. Then problem of poor connectivity, friends. In the village areas we see lack of internet connection, Wi-Fi and broadband connection, which is government improving in the present scenario. So that again creates a huge problem for the accessible of citizenry. Next part is National Statistical Office NSO, that consists of Central Statistical Office and National Sample Survey Office. So earlier there were separate departments. So NSO comprises of CSSO and NSSO. And what is the functions? To collect the statistical data and analyze statistical data, and which look after the inflation tendency, inflationary tendencies. Remember this fact. Now labor force participation rate was increasing, so you remember this formula, that number of employed persons plus number of unemployed persons divided by total population into 100 gives the labor force participation rate. Then worker population ratio, number of employed person upon total number of population into 100, and proportion of unemployed person, number of unemployed, then total population into 100. Unemployment rate is the number of unemployed persons upon number of employed persons plus number of unemployed persons into 100. Now the graph shows unemployment persons ratio, that is rising in 2017 36.9 to 2019-21 to 40.1 and 38.2. Further issues with the periodic labor force survey. So it has the sample size which is a national level estimation, and in fact much larger than the minimum sample size required to produce the reliable estimate of data. Then UR is based on usual statistics, but it is not comparable either on global norms such as Central or Monitoring Indian Economy CMIE. Now CWS is closer to global norms and memory recall is much better in CWS. CWS approaches UR with the estimate of 8.8% unchanged during the last 3 years. That is again usual status made more sense when the economy was predominantly agrarian. So जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं, when the economy was agrarian based on agricultural activities, then the labor force survey record was quite different. But due to the fact that agrarian economy is rising continuously, that leads to reform in the PLFS data. Now